Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another really interesting combination that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how it patterns, especially since this setup has given us a number of really nice looking patterns here lately, and I definitely think there's the possibility that with these shells and this choke combo, it could give us another one. But as for the shells we've brought today, I got out some more of these, the Apex Turkey Ninja shells, but these ones are the 28 gauge 2 3/4 inch ounce and 3/8 payload of TSS 8.5 shot, moving about 1,040 feet per second. We have tested these once before, probably about a month ago now on the channel, with some pretty solid results, but I think they still needed a little bit of fine tuning, and who knows, maybe today's choke might be the one to do it, so we'll see what we can get from them. But as for our shotgun today, we brought out the Tristar Viper 28 gauge. This has been a pretty solid performing combination for us over the last few weeks with several different shells, so we know it's got good potential. But for the choke we've got in it, I've thrown in the Carlson's Turkey 520 today. It's not one of their fancy, long beard or heavyweight chokes or anything like that. It's their standard 520 constriction turkey choke, so there's no fancy bells and whistles about it. But how can these 8.5 shot ninjas do through a 520? They're a slightly larger pellet than the 9 shot we've been testing, so maybe the slight bit more open 520 here is going to be a perfect combo for them. I don't know, we'll see. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. The turkey target's at 40 yards, and I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity from the shells. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see what these 8.5 shot ninjas can do through the Carlson's 520. In theory, should look pretty good, but let's take our shot and see what it gives us. Alright, so that shell gave us 983 through the chrono. The boss claim is only 1,040, and we have a 26-inch barrel, I believe, on that TriStar. So we are a little bit under that claim, and not breaking the 1,000 feet per second mark is moving maybe a little bit slow, but this is the same thing we saw the last time we tested these shells. So at least it's consistently right just below that 1,000 feet per second mark. So I guess, in my opinion, I think we should be getting the 1,040 they're claiming, but right around the 1,000 feet per second mark is still enough to get the job done for these shells, even though they might be moving a little bit on the slower side. Either way, what kind of a pattern did they give us down there at 40? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so here we are down at our 40-yard target, and I gotta say, that's a pretty nasty looking pattern right there. We absolutely have a dead turkey at 40 yards all day long. He's got a bunch of them through the back of the brain and down the top of the spine there. So yeah, he would have not made it out of that pattern at all. And there's nowhere left, right, up and down on that paper he can move to and get away from you. So that's a very capable 40-yard pattern all day long. Now, initially, looking at the entire pattern, it's a little bit interesting. It is a pretty tight pattern. It's a pretty hot pattern right through the core area, but it's definitely a little bit on the splotchy side. If we move in here to that core, right around that bird's head, you can see a number of areas where there are some noticeable voids. Right up here in the top left corner of that turkey paper, right down here behind that bird's head, there's a little bit of a void area. Right down here in front of the bird's neck, there's another little void. So it is a little bit blotchy in the core, although there is still a lot of pellets in there. It's not perfect. Around the edges, it does give you a little bit more leeway to work with, which is a nice thing, but it definitely gets noticeably splotchy out here as well. We kind of have a little area of shot off the right edge there with a little string over here off the top right and a couple other little splotches around the edges. Maybe a few of those outer pellets you can consider flyers, but it's just not a super even spread of pellets, even though it is a pretty nasty performing pattern still. So it's a little bit of an interesting one here. I definitely think this Carlson's 520 gave us a better pattern with these Apex Ninja 8.5s than what the TrueLock 515 gave us when we tested these previously. I think the little bit more open constriction did help them out a little bit, which does make sense. They're a slightly larger pellet than a TSS 9 is. So I do think it helped us out there, but they're still a little bit splotchy and a little all over the place. This is kind of what we saw in the initial test with them as well. They were a little weird of a shape pattern. They were kind of an oblong rectangle more than an actual circular pattern with several voids in there as well. So have we found the right choke for these yet? I don't know. This is a very capable pattern that I would not be scared to hunt with at all. You could easily push that to 45 yards still and be plenty fine with it. So it's not a bad pattern whatsoever. whatsoever, but it's not the perfect pattern either. And do I think we can get better out of these shells still? Probably so. We know Apex makes some really good stuff, so maybe it's just down to finding the right choke for these. I don't know, maybe it's going to be the Pattern Master, Code Black Turkey, maybe an Indian Creek, something like that. I guess we'll just have to try them through a couple more chokes and see if we can fine tune them a little bit. So far, seems like these might prefer the touch more open 520-ish constriction range. So definitely not terrible overall. That's a very capable pattern that I wouldn't be scared to hunt with, and it would absolutely do the job for you if that's the combo you had to or wanted to use. No doubt about it. And here's the wad out of that shell. Definitely nothing too fancy to see. No major damage or anything. No rips, tears, pinholes, anything like that. Doesn't look like it snagged on anything. There's nothing stuck down in there. So ultimately, definitely nothing too fancy or special to take note of here. Looks very much like I would expect it to as far as the wad goes. Alright y'all, well, what do you think about that pattern right there? That's definitely a pretty nasty pattern for a 28 gauge all day long. That's easily a 40 or 45 yard contender, without a doubt, and I wouldn't hesitate to turkey hunt with that pattern just the way it is. So it's pretty decent overall, but it is a little bit on the splotchy side. There are a number of voids right close to our core right there, as well as around the edges. It does kind of have a few little splotches of shot around there. So is it the perfect pattern? It's definitely not, although that is far from a terrible pattern as well. So maybe a little bit of mixed results, even though it is still a very nice performer. Now, are those voids going to be a detriment to this pattern out to 40 yards? No, they're not going to be, but I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more even of a spread. We don't necessarily need a tighter pattern, but maybe with the right choke, we can get rid of a few of those voids or something. I don't know. We're just going to have to try it and see what happens with a few other chokes. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these 28 gauge Apex Ninja shells? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is that a pattern or a combination that you would hunt with? And are there any other shells or choke combos you want to see in 28 gauge, or that you want to see us run those Ninja shells through? Let me know all that down below. At the end of the day, I don't think there's much more that we can say about that. We've kind of covered it all at this point. It's a good turkey pattern. Definitely not a whole lot we can argue with, but if we want to get picky, there are a few little negatives in there that we can pull out with those voids and stuff. But hey, for a 28, that's a very capable pattern, and I would hunt it if that's the combination I had, without a doubt. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.